Well, good evening. This is an exciting time for us. And of course, it's Wednesday night, and Wednesday night is map show night. And I trust that you are there ready to join us and to share your insights and comments. And maybe perhaps you have a question to ask. We would love to engage with you. So if you share a comment online, please leave your name and tell us where you're from so that we can involve you in tonight's discussion. And of course, the topic this evening is the end. And no, I'm not talking about 2012 or any other date in the past. I'm not talking about the end of mankind or the end of the world. I'm talking about something different. And one of the things that I often get asked by people is, where do you start? Where do you begin? And this is a common question. And you know what's interesting is most people, like myself, are good starters, but poor finishers. In fact, I used to tell people that I'm a good starter and a poor finisher, but in reality, I was a habitual quitter. In other words, I ended before I got to the finish line. And that is the lot of many people's life story. They started many things, but finished none. And so tonight I want to talk about the correct way to begin, the best way to start. And it might surprise you because it's not the way that perhaps you have started things before. But before I share my message, I want to put a picture on the screen, and Dr. Yona, who's in studio with me this evening, has been to this very place and he has observed this view, and I want to share it with you this evening because it's a view that I spent most of my young days staring at, sitting on the veranda of our farmhouse, looking down the river to the ocean, often seeing ships passing by, but for the most part, looking and wondering what lay beyond the horizon. And I'm going to talk about that horizon this evening because so often the horizon is the furthest point that we can see. You know, we look to that horizon, I think sailors of old, when they saw the horizon, they thought that that was the end of the earth, and they would sail to that point and their ship would fall off. And so that's about as far as people look. But the end is not necessarily the horizon. And I used to look over that horizon, and of course, if I had to explain what would be beyond that horizon on the physical planet, it would be Antarctica. Just 5 hours flight away was a white desert, and if I traveled beyond, that's where I would get to. Of course, I could go beyond the Antarctic and continue on to the next continent, and maybe I would be bumping into the Isle of Svalbard. I might be getting to Norway and heading back down to Africa, and ultimately get right back to where I was sitting on the veranda. But you know something? I've heard or read a quote that said the bend in the road is not the end of the road. Our physical sight has limitations. It only allows us to see in a straight line. And there is a limit to how far we can see. When I was involved in military conscription many years ago, I was told that you can see a flashing red light at a distance of 80 kilometers, and beyond that you wouldn't see it. Of course, what they didn't say is that a flashing red light at 80 kilometers would be below the horizon. So unless it was an aeroplane with a flashing red light, you wouldn't see it. And so we are familiar with the limitations of our physical sight. But what's important, and what I talked about last week when we had the topic Mind Matters, it was really about what do we see with our mind's eye? Because my ability to look beyond that horizon began to grow and grow and grow as I sat on that veranda and looked and stared and imagined. And you also have the ability to imagine. But so often today, people are living in big cities. There is no horizon to stimulate their imagination. They are faced with traffic. They are faced with a concrete jungle. And all they can think about is, how do I escape? And then immediately realize that they are stuck in a system that dictates that they should get up on a Monday morning and spend 5 days a week chasing money. And so many people are doing that today. I think that we have the most exciting creation placed between our ears. It's called a brain, and part of that ability is to imagine. And I think you and I should spend more and more time imagining an exciting future. You see, sometimes the horizon that we look at is not a physical horizon, but maybe it's the horizon of our ability. And we know our limitations. We know that there's only certain things that we can do. We can only run at a certain speed. There's only a certain skill that we've learned at school or at university. And we know maybe that we can't throw a ball very straight, or we're not good on the sports field, or whatever it might be. We are aware of our physical limitations or abilities. And so for many people, their ability limits their thinking. Their ability has a horizon, it has a ceiling. Another thing that often limits people is time. I was talking to someone earlier today, and they've passed the halfway mark between 0 and 100. And they're beginning to realize that the number of years of their lifespan has reduced substantially since they were born. And so they're seeing the end of their life as another horizon. And maybe you have a horizon of that kind. Maybe Dr. Yona was just sharing with me earlier today, which made me think of the state of our health. And we see that as a limitation or as a horizon. Another thing that maybe limits our thinking is money. Money is our horizon. We look and we calculate, we know how much we earn in our job, perhaps, and we multiply that by 12. And if we're lucky, we add a 13th bonus check in the year. We multiply it by the 40 years that we're going to work. And we begin to realize that all of the money we could possibly earn, even if we were the CEO of the company, is not going to come close to being able to fund the vision or the dream we have. So we reduce our horizon according to the finances or the money that we have. So for many people, their begin or their start has limits. They find themselves in a place called a box with walls that they themselves have built. But when you want to begin something of significance, those limitations need to be removed. And they just as easy as we create those limitations with our imagination, so we can also, with our imagination, remove those limitations. And so the start of any new thing that has not existed before is simply the ability to imagine without limitation. In other words, to be able to imagine the impossible, to imagine the things that do not yet exist, to imagine time without end, to imagine resources of abundance, to imagine tapping into the abilities of people who are not even yet born. You may have heard many people say that you should begin with the end in mind. It's the end that inspires us to take the first step. It's the picture that we see in the future that gives us hope. And it's that hope that develops or generates the necessary faith that we can step into a future and reveal the provision that awaits us at the appointed place. So often we move into the future by identifying obstacles first, and the obstacles become our goals. And so we set up a whole plan to deal with the obstacle, and that obstacle invariably is dealing with ability, time, and money, instead of focusing on the vision that we have, or the vision that we have been given. And when I say we have been given, if we just listen to the desires of our heart, maybe we can begin to reveal the plan that God has for us. So let's go and take a look at this evening's topic, which is the end. And for me, the end is, in fact, the place to begin. We need to have clarity of vision. Dr. Yona reminded me of an acronym that I developed in the year 2021, which simply stands for, or rather is clarity of vision influences direction, or clarity of vision inspires destiny. And if you look at the first letters of those words, you'll see where it comes from. You know, we can change negative things into positive things. And so clarity of vision is absolutely essential, and it's the starting point. And it lies beyond the horizon. It lies beyond the comfort zone. It lies beyond our limits that we are able to see with our physical eyes, or what other people believe we are able to achieve. And we need to begin by seeing that future. That's the start. We need to describe it. And Map for Life provides you with the very methodology to enable you to extract from nothing the very picture that you believe should become a reality. And that is the first step, is to define that future clearly, to write it down so that those who see it are inspired by it, inspired so much that they too take action along with your steps of faith. So the starting point is actually the end. The place to begin is to document, to write, to describe that end. And when you get to the finish line, in other words, when you have completed, when you've arrived at the end that you saw before you began, when you arrive at that end, then that which you set out to start is able to begin. And so I believe that our life, our time here, our call, our destiny, I say our call, our sending perhaps, when we arrive here, if we have been created for a particular purpose, then there's something specific for us to do. And that is to give life to the vision that we have. And so we are literally walking up to a finish line, which in fact is a start line. Somebody once said at the end of their life, it is finished. And when they said it is finished, what they were actually saying, I have completed what I came to do. It can now begin. It can now start. So our journey is to walk up to that start line. But in order, before we can start, we must first identify the end and then complete what we have seen so that what we set out to start can begin. I hope that makes sense for you this evening. I trust that you will shift from being a good starter to being a great finisher. The world is full of good starters, but it's the people who finish what they start that make life significant. Become a great finisher, and you will see the world around you transform. And I trust that you will find yourself a place where you can look like I did, beyond the horizon. Allow your imagination to run wild, because the God who created you said that what you think and what you imagine doesn't even come close to the purpose and plan that He has for your life. I believe it. You better believe it. Let's begin to define that end so that we can start to live a life of purpose that leads to significance. Thank you so much for joining me this evening and listening in. We'd love to hear your comments. I just want to remind you what that horizon looks like, and maybe one day you will visit me at this place and take a look at this very same horizon, and maybe it will stimulate your imagination. Dr. Yona is with me this evening. He's in the back end of our studio, and together we will have a chat. Maybe he will share some thoughts with you as well. But thank you so much. I'm going to share a short little video clip, and we will be back right after this very brief, or should I say, very short break. Let me just find our, there we go. I love what Miguel has to say about Map for Life.
Muy buenos días a todos. I am Miguel Sanz from Madrid, Spain. I started using Map for Life back in 2006.
Please share that question. I'm going to work through a few things that Dr. Yona has been sharing with me. Dr. Yona, if you would like to join me, I see if you would like to share or speak to me in studio, obviously from behind, without your video, please let me know and I will bring you in and we can have a chat about this evening's topic. Possibility thinking, like there is no box. I think in Map for Life, one of the first things that I wrote is that we need to break out of our box. And so Dr. Yona and I are going to have a brief chat. I'd love to hear some of his insights this evening. And I trust that you have been inspired by what I shared tonight, and that you've got some things that you would like to share, because I know this is your favorite topic. Over to you, Dr. Yona.
Hello. Yes, hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for the narrative, for the story. Yes, I remember seeing the horizon.
Dr. Yona mentioned to me that my mic was off. I hope that's not the case. I trust that you are able to hear me wherever you might be. Sankwe, perhaps you can let me know. I see that you've you have commented, and I see that you also know that Dr. Yona is from Arusha in Tanzania. Sorry, Simba, you've I'm seeing two names and I'm reading them as one. Simba from Arusha, Tanzania. Wonderful to have you joining us this evening. And I hope that you were able to hear some of the message that we shared earlier. And I look forward to hearing any questions that you might have. Please post them online. We'd love to engage you this evening. I notice that our technology seems to be hanging on this side, so I'm a little bit unsure as to whether everybody is hearing this message clearly. So please let me know if you are. Dr. Yona, if you are able to speak, please do so, and I'm going to hand over to you right now.
Yes, please. Yes. Good evening, all you mappers, and I'm happy to share a few insights. And thank you, Glenn, for your presentation. Let me just say, Map for Life for me has been the game changer for many years now, and I believe in the formula. If you want, that there's no joy of doing anything unless you know the end. Yes, the end actually is the beginning. Now, from an engineering background, you complete your design, you see everything nobody sees. And only when you start to flesh it, only when you start to construct it, then people start to see. But you already saw it a long time ago. You saw the end. And brick by brick,
Okay, my
metal by metal.
apologies
And
for the technology issues on our side this evening.
do you hear me
I'm
now?
assuming that what we are experiencing is a okay. I see Sankwe says he can hear Dr. Yona. I'm not able to hear Dr. Yona at all. I'm assuming it has something to do with our the state of our power grid in South Africa, which might also be affecting our internet. So my apologies for that this evening. I think because I am not able to hear anything on my side or see what's happening, Dr. Yona, I see that you can also hear me. I
Yes.
think that we're going to have to call this a night and end the show. I would have loved to have had a good discussion with you this evening. Sadly, these things do happen from time to time. So for Sankwe and Simbo who've joined us, and Dr. Yona, for you joining as well this evening, thank you so much for your time. Maybe tonight is the night for us to use our imagination and just look beyond that horizon, look beyond the technological difficulties that we're experiencing this evening, and imagine an audience that is fully engaged and inspired to see things that they've never seen before. And that is part of what tonight is all about, is the ability to see a new future. I know wherever you are right now, you might feel that you are in a difficult situation. I think some people if you're living in Africa in particular, you might feel that the situation, the circumstance, the problems, etc., are difficult or complex. Well, they are when you look at them. But remember, those are within the bounds of your physical sight. They are before the horizon. I want you to look beyond the horizon, where there are no problems, where there are no challenges, but there is a vision that has been completely and fully achieved and which has begun to transform society, humanity, and the earth, the planet, whatever it might be that you engaged with. May that be your reality. So thank you so much for joining this evening. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you same time, same place every Wednesday at 7 p.m. South African time, or 5 p.m. GMT, as they say. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good night.